I did it! I finished my first ever Trails of Arc. Trails in the Sky, first chapter, second chapter, and now third chapter. Which is the most far out of the three? If you like first and second chapter, there's no guarantee you'll like this black sheep. It was quite jarring how far-fetched this one was. I thought I would love it because it stars my boy Kevin, who I was starting to get head over heels for, but you know, we have opinions. Also, fair warning, there will be Trails in the Sky first and second chapter spoilers. This is the third game after all. Now, we're back in Liberl, but not for long. The first thing you'll notice is we are no longer the former game's leads, Joshua and Estelle. Instead, we're following a green-haired Vash the Stampede, aka Kevin, who is infiltrating a Merchant of Death's chambers while someone is keeping tabs on him. After making Kevin look as cool as possible, he's joined by a new companion. Perhaps new to us, but certainly not to him. Ries is his assigned squire, and they appear to have some history. The characterization in Trails is always enjoyable, and third wastes no time showing the dynamic of these two. Kevin is a heretic hunter, and Dominion, a powerful member of the Septian Church, but he acts like an ordinary priest, often downplaying his true potential. And his partner in crime, Ries, a strict, always wanting to maintain a professional working relationship. That and her stomach is forever growling. The two are sent to investigate a recently discovered artifact, roughly 8 months after the events of Trails in the Sky second chapter. It's a box. You know, I was really wondering how the third's formula and pacing was going to be compared to the first and second chapter, and what we got was something I was largely not expecting. By supernatural means, Kevin and Ries are transported into the box. This specific plane is known as the Hermit's Garden. This is the hub location, where you could restock on quartz, foods, and buy and upgrade equipment. Guided by a mysterious voice, they move to the next area in hopes to discover where exactly they landed, and how to get out. As they explore this abstract world, they come across seal stones. By going back to the garden and releasing the seal within, they're met with a fellow comrade. It's like Xenoblade 2's core crystals, except each one gets better than the last. Wait, that's not true. Boo, Josette, boo. I will say there's a certain hype around finding a seal stone. Always excited to see who's inside. And rest easy, you can't miss any, as there are sealed doors in your path that prevent you from continuing until the next person sealed is set free. So yes, the gist is, traveling through this world you'll come to know as Phantasma, while being egged on by mysterious folks and finding your friends. In case you forgot, Trails has a large cast, and in case you need a rundown, I'll only name my favorites. Estelle's the heart of gold, Joshua is more pragmatic and down to earth, Agate, my hard-headed fighter with a heart of gold, Olivier and Mueller, my one true pairing, the gay writes themselves between them, I swear, and everyone else. Just know everyone in first and second chapter are here, but some of them weren't playable until now. It was really exciting to see characters' unique movesets and having them on your side for a change. As you collect characters, memory doors will open up to you. There are 3 types of doors. Star doors contain short side stories. Sun door is about minigames, and moon doors, God, moon doors are lengthy side stories, and I mean buckle up, because these are like 30-minute plus. While I appreciate the storytelling, the moon doors just felt like too much. And a lot of these stories felt like bits they couldn't fit into the story of the first 2 games. They wanted to expand on the character or lore, but there was no slot to fit it in first and second chapter. Now, most doors have specific requirements. Eat X amount of foods, fight X amount of battles, but more often than not require a specific character by giving you a hint of who's required. Most doors are pretty straightforward, but there was 1 or 2 doors I had to look up. The door will usually pertain to that character, so if you need Tita, prepare for a Tita-centered story. And even though I complained about the length of some of them are genuinely great, funny, or clearly setting things up for things to come. Things that may seem insignificant or throwaway come back in later entries, or so I'm told. While cool, I doubt my old brain can remember all the things this game is throwing at me, as some of the doors are straight up lore dumps, and I felt like, how the hell am I supposed to remember this? I know the series is looking to have like 50 entries to tell its story, but sometimes I felt like I was reading a history book. I truly hope future games call back and reference certain things, because there's just no way I'm going to retain all this. But once again, Falcom's finest, Riku-san 1, the only one, has me covered, helping me keep track of important names and characters, because my head was spinning. That said, I do strongly encourage tackling every door because apparently important new characters will be introduced. Like right now, I am head over heels over Lecter. Sort of. The way he seems to be spoken about in the community has me worried. But listen, all I'm gonna say is, if I instantly like a character, there's a 90% chance they're gonna turn out evil. What can I say? I got a thing for bad boys. But some doors just feel like a weird extra bit, or hell, even a fever dream. From playing as the heckling gang of ravens to orphans riding dragons. I'm telling you, Third is such a strange game, and it doesn't stop there. Phantasma is a world where anything is possible, such as fighting characters you'd normally never draw a weapon against. It felt incredibly fan-servicey. Not in a sexual nature, but like, oh, have you ever wanted to fight this bracer before? Wouldn't it be crazy if this character specifically had a rematch against this character? It's so bizarre, and I think what kills me about it is it feels disjointed. Let's go back to Trail's first and second chapter. There was a clear goal, become bracers, while also trying to figure out what happened to your father and the mystery around Joshua. By the end of first chapter, we're seeing how things are all coming together, while the second chapter wraps some things up while hinting toward other things down the pipeline. In the first two chapters, there was something to look forward to, a mission. Third feels like a giant setup piece. You gather everyone's going to Crossbell, something's going down at Crossbell. Crossbell is important, and for those who don't know, that's the next arc. So imagine hearing all about Crossbell, but never being able to go there in this game. This is Trails in the Sky Third. It's Trails in the Sky, trust me bro, the game. Trust me that all of this is gonna come back and blow your mind. It just feels like a giant tease. And you know, there's a minor goal, I suppose, to get to the end of each plane by defeating some grand demon and effectively ending that chapter, as each chapter begins to flesh out Kevin's backstory, how he became a man of the cloth, and how certain people influenced him. Bit by bit, players begin to get the full picture, and I'm gonna be honest, it's stupid predictable. When the final picture comes into view, nothing shocked me, and that's fine. But again, this goes back to the lack of payoff, because you could see Kevin's backstory from a mile away, so you go through it because, well, there's nowhere else to go but forward. If you played Trails in the Sky's second chapter, little has changed. The system is still action time battle. Fights play out on a grid, you have several options: attack, move, item, arts, crafts. Arts are spells that take a little while to cast. Crafts are unique character moves that cost CP, or craft points, gained by taking and dishing damage. CP is also used for chain attacks. The more people in the chain, the more CP it takes to join, but the more damage you deal. S-crafts and S-breaks work the same. Over 100 CP allows you to do their ultimate attack. 200 CP lets you do their ultimate attack, but stronger. S-breaks are moves that allow you to cut ahead in line and cost all CP, which brings us to what we really need to pay attention to, the action time bar, or the AT bar at the left side of the screen. These show turn order, and even more importantly, sometimes beside character portraits are icons known as turn bonuses. An exclamation is a guaranteed critical, yellow hearts regains health, green hearts regain CP, so you'll want to make sure that your character aligns with a turn bonus, or at the very least, prevent enemies from getting one. Well, that used to be the case. In Third, they've added new turn bonuses, such as Vanish, making an enemy temporarily disappear, and if you kill all the other enemies before they have time to reappear, you win. However, you don't get experience for the vanished enemy. However, if you're hit with Vanished, your character temporarily vanishes, and when they reappear, they lose all their EP, aka mana. Death, this speaks for itself, a physical attack that instantly kills unless immune. Item, meaning 100% guarantee item drop from an enemy killed. And Double Sword, aka Rush, meaning you do 2 actions back to back. Great for spellcasting, moving and attacking, or hell, attack twice. And my favorite, Guard. This one is unique because you don't want to land on this as a turn bonus, as any attack will be automatically guarded against. Unless you're doing a non-attack action, then it's fine. This is the most unique turn bonus because it has you thinking differently. You want your opponents to land on it. I mean, just imagine your opponent S-breaking on you, but they use it on a guard turn? Simply divine. I like that it provides another way of thinking when manipulating the timeline. Spells take an extra turn to cast. Crafts knock back enemy turns, or bring ally turns forward. Vanishing enemies. There are so many ways to strategically manage the timeline, and it's fun. Another new thing is a handful of spells that weren't in first or second chapter. Some lesser spells and some high-level ones. And this brings me to the orbment and line system. Still work the exact same way. First, Sepith, a resource that is gained after each battle you can turn into quartz. Quartz are items affiliated with an element that you plug into your orbment. Quartz determine your stats, spells, status effects you have, and every quartz has an elemental value. Each character's orbment tree is unique. Some have 1 line while others have 3. How to get specific spells is by reaching the necessary elemental value of that spell and plugging in the quartz on that same line. This makes players get creative with how they want to build their characters. People with 3 lines obviously aren't going to be the strongest spellcasters, so it's best to pay attention to what stats and status effects they can gain from quartz. If they have 1 line, they're usually meant to cast the grandest of spells. 2 lines could be jack of all trades, master of none. Either way, build your crew however you like, keeping in mind what they're made for. Just like the previous games, third isn't grindy. Considering there are 20 playable characters, they made it easy to raise them up. And if you're ever stuck, and assuming you've been fighting everything you've come across, I can assure you, it's always your build that's the issue. And while not directly related to battle, there's one more new thing. Support characters. Having such a huge cast with only a 4-person party, it's easy to feel like you're not using everyone to their fullest extent. Well, a character in the support slot grants passive buffs, and usually 1 debuff. Now, as you wander through Phantasma, mentioned before you'll run into doors. Some doors have battles before you can unlock a memory, or battles within the memory. But the main reason why I'm bringing this up again is because of Mira, aka money. Same as before, Mira only comes through side quests or selling Sepith and equipment. You'll want to do these for story, but also the Mira, because you'll need new equipment, or else you'll suffer. This was hands down one of my biggest struggles with the game. I was poor more or less until the very end, where I had so much Sepith to spare. Honestly, it did discourage swapping party members. You just pick your main 4 and only upgrade them. Everyone else would get items found in dungeons, because I couldn't afford to keep everyone properly equipped, as equipment was stupid expensive. And while I'm here, let me talk about Sun Doors a little more. The mini games. These I spent the least time in, cause I'm just not a mini game girl. But if you're curious, we have a shooter, some tournaments, and more. My favorite is actually the quiz game because it refreshed my memory on some things. These are doors that you can usually come back to, as there are harder versions of each challenge. So speaking on doors, you can fast travel to them, and to different planes. You get this right out the gate. Monuments are littered all throughout Phantasma, where you can restore HP MP, buy quartz, equipment, upgrade your orbment, and of course fast travel too. If there is anything to take away from this, the gameplay is more or less the same. The pacing feels better, but what you're going through feels disjointed. It's like the rate you're cooking is fine, things don't overstay their welcome, you can move on to the next story beat rather quickly, but the ingredients you're cooking with leaves you questioning. Like milk and fish, both fine ingredients, but do they go together? Anyways, does that make sense? I hope so, because we're moving on to the art and graphics, which again, nothing has changed. Trails still has the usual boring, basic, stiff character art, and the portraits are fine. They reuse the sprites and portraits from past games, which again is fine, work smarter, not harder, am I right? And third is a part of the Sky trilogy, so it should all look coherent. Third also got the same treatment of the new cover art like second chapter, where it looks completely different than the usual basic style. My stance remains the same. I wish Trails in the Sky had more style, visual flair, and I am willing to bet that if they had an art style with more pizzazz, this series would attract more people. Because as far as I'm concerned, this looks like a basic game that I would have never picked up. And this is funny because this seems to be the case with Falcom games in general. I said something similar in my East Memories of Salsetta video. In-game or even the box art. If Memories of Salsetta wasn't gifted to me, I would have never thought to pick this off the shelves because it looks pretty damn basic. So the sprites, also the same, nothing new to add, they look like little toys and that's cool. Now I was hoping we got the best version of Trails in the Sky 3rd chapter, as originally it came out in 2007 in Japan, and believe it or not, in 2017 we got it in the States. 10 years later! And this was the golden year of JRPGs, right? Persona 5, Nier Automata, Tales of Berseria. This is interesting because 1st and 2nd chapter got re-releases, aka ports. HD ports, both in Japan and in America. Japan more so. But 3rd, we got one version, Steam. That's it. Whereas Japan got it on the PSP in 2008, PlayStation 3 in 2013, and finally the Vita remaster in 2016. What I'm saying is, Japan got 3 ports before we got it once. And we have the original 2007 version, mind you. Anyways, I think the new areas they added were interesting, very on theme with Phantasma, just out in magical space with long halls and corners as you scale through this fantastical world. I get it, it's supposed to be reminiscent of the towers from the 1st chapter, but also you revisit a lot of places, but a warped version of them. Enemies are prowling about, or now there's lava. But what really excited me was the new music, which I think knocked it out of the park. I don't know if I could say I liked it more than first and second chapter, but it had a different vibe to it that matched the weirdness of Phantasma. The planes where you're just in a colorful space have some of my favorite tracks. They're so calming yet mysterious because you're venturing into the unknown. I am really grateful for the amount of new tracks we got. I think it would have been easy to fall back on music they already had, but no, they did not. That's not to say the oldies but goldies didn't show up from time to time. Honestly, I think the strongest part of third is actually the music. And that's saying a lot because first and second chapter is amazing. The bar is high and it proudly stands right beside or maybe even above them, thus making my favorite track difficult to choose. I'm going to give you 2 because you can't stop me. And funny enough, these have a Middle Eastern / Indian vibe. The Ark more than the Jade Corridor. I don't know, y'all have a listen, then you'll know what I'm talking about. From the Sky trilogy, it's my least favorite, no contest. It didn't leave me thrilled or excited to continue. There was little that inspired me to want to move forward. In fact, it really felt like homework having to take notes from all these lore dumps, or hyping up a thing that I won't even get a taste of in this game. It very much felt like an add-on, one giant extra side story, like, oh, we can't fit it into the previous chapter, so put it all here. And because the main story was incredibly predictable and the character banter was less than before, I was left to look at the gameplay to carry me to the end. And even there was little to no change. And I mean, don't fix what isn't broken, and the few changes they did make, I really enjoyed. The highest points of the game for me were unlocking seal stones and gradually reclaiming the old cast and then some. It was the initial hit of serotonin and curiosity of wondering who I'd get next is what kept me going until I got everyone, then I was left with what remained of the main story. And the main story wasn't super gripping. Oh, and frankly, I was so over being poor. I feel like Trails games is the one game in recent memory where I struggle with having money. Maybe because I've grinded a lot in games, so money was no object to me, but now, grinding don't get you that coin. Anyways, while I don't feel particularly excited, apparently the Crossbell arc is heat, and our boy Riku-san 1, Falcom's Finest, has hooked your girl up with Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure. I just hope these next 2 installments live up to the hype third attempted to build up. And real quick, if you're watching this, I am in Japan right now. I told myself, you know, this year is the year I kind of focus on me and I touch grass, and I'm touching Japanese grass, baby. So expect videos to come out slower, and no, I'm hopefully, this is current me filming for later me, having a good time in Japan. Thank you so much for watching. Click the top box to see my Sora no Kiseki video, and the bottom box for my Suikoden video, because it really feels like this game was inspired by Suikoden. I have no evidence of this, but it's just a feeling. And please support me on Patreon as it helps the channel out greatly. Love your face, and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!